Did you know that beneath England's image of orderly queues and polite conversation, a storm of social unrest is brewing? Recent riots have led to hundreds of arrests, exposing a side of England that many never expected to see. Let's uncover the truth behind these shocking events and what they mean for this historically stable nation. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. From the Norman conquest to the Industrial Revolution, England's path to global dominance seemed unstoppable. But now, this bastion of stability is crumbling. What could possibly destabilize a country with over 1,000 years of unified history? To understand the depth of England's current crisis, we need to journey back to its roots. The year 927 AD marked a pivotal moment in English history, the unification of various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms into a single nation. This event laid the foundation for England's long-standing stability and set the stage for its future as a global powerhouse. Fast forward to 1066 and we witness another defining moment, the Norman conquest. This invasion not only established a strong monarchy, but also paved the way for England's distinct national identity. As centuries passed, England continued to evolve, adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Perhaps the most transformative period in England's history was the Industrial Revolution. This era catapulted the nation into a position of unprecedented global influence. England became a hotbed of innovation, amassing vast wealth and expanding its empire to cover nearly a quarter of the world's surface. The country's identity became synonymous with progress, power, and cultural leadership. Given this rich historical backdrop, the recent political turmoil in England seems almost unthinkable, yet here we are, witnessing a nation grappling with an identity crisis of epic proportions. The resignation of Prime Minister Liz Truss after a mere 45 days in office serves as a stark illustration of the current instability. But what led to this dramatic turn of events? Truss's downfall was triggered by a failed tax-cutting budget that sent shockwaves through financial markets and incited a revolt within her own Conservative Party. This incident didn't just end a political career, it exposed the fragility of England's current political landscape. The repercussions of this political chaos extend far beyond Westminster. England's global reputation, built over centuries, is now under scrutiny. The country that once epitomized stability and order is now making headlines for its revolving door of prime ministers and internal party conflicts. Conservative lawmaker Charles Walker's words echo the sentiment of many. This is an absolute disgrace. It's utterly appalling. This statement, made in the wake of Truss's resignation, highlights the deep-seated discontent within the political establishment itself. But the implications of this turmoil reach far beyond the political sphere. England's national identity, long rooted in its historical stability and global influence, is being challenged. The rapid succession of political leaders is eroding public trust, creating a vacuum where extremist ideologies can potentially gain traction. This erosion of trust is particularly concerning given England's multicultural society. The country has long prided itself on being a melting pot of cultures, a place where diversity is celebrated. However, political instability can sometimes lead to a search for scapegoats, potentially straining the social fabric that has been carefully woven over decades. While England struggles on the world stage, a domestic powder keg has exploded. What sparked the largest outbreak of violence in Britain in over a decade? The truth behind these riots reveals a shocking vulnerability in the heart of English society. In a nation known for its orderly queues and polite demeanor, recent events have shattered the image of England as a bastion of stability. A single tragic incident, misreported and misunderstood, set off a chain reaction that would test the very fabric of English society. It all began with a stabbing. In isolation, such an event might have remained a local tragedy. However, in today's hyper-connected world, misinformation spreads like wildfire. Within hours, false claims circulated on social media platforms, erroneously identifying the suspect as an immigrant or a radical Islamist. These unfounded allegations reached an astounding 15.7 million views across various platforms, igniting a tinderbox of latent tensions. The rapid spread of this misinformation had dire consequences. It intensified xenophobic sentiments and provided fuel for far-right groups to mobilize. What started as online chatter quickly spilled onto the streets. Protests organized by these groups turned violent, with mosques and hotels housing asylum seekers becoming targets of aggression. As the situation spiraled out of control, the government found itself struggling to manage the crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the riots as far-right thuggery, emphasizing the need for social media companies to take action against the spread of misleading information. However, the call for action came too late to prevent the outbreak of violence. The riots that ensued marked the first widespread outbreak of violence in Britain in 13 years, illustrating a significant shift in the social landscape of the country. In Leeds, rioters overturned vehicles and set a police car ablaze. Police noted that some individuals had traveled from outside the area to participate in the chaos after seeing it on social media, highlighting the role of digital platforms in amplifying and spreading unrest. Local authorities reported that the riots were instigated by a criminal minority looking to disrupt community relations. This assessment underscores the complexity of the situation, where genuine grievances, misinformation, and opportunistic elements converge to create a perfect storm of civil unrest. The scale of the riots shocked the nation. Approximately 400 arrests were made, a number that speaks to the widespread nature of the unrest. This outbreak of violence has challenged England's long-standing reputation for tolerance and multiculturalism, forcing the country to confront uncomfortable truths about social cohesion and integration. In response to the crisis, the government announced plans to deploy a standing army of specialist police officers to quell further unrest. This drastic measure underscores the seriousness of the situation and the authorities' determination to prevent future outbreaks of violence. As the dust settles from recent unrest, a new battle is brewing. Thousands are taking to the streets, not to riot, but to oppose racism and violence. Is this the start of a cultural revolution, or will it deepen the rifts in English society? Welcome to modern England, a nation grappling with a complex identity crisis. On one hand, we see cities like London continuing to attract global talent and wealth, reinforcing their status as economic powerhouses. On the other, we witness regions facing economic challenges and social unrest. This stark contrast paints a picture of two distinct Englands coexisting within the same borders. London, with its iconic skyline and bustling financial district, remains a beacon of prosperity. The city's ability to draw international investments and skilled professionals from around the world speaks to its enduring global appeal. However, this success story is not representative of the entire nation. Many other regions in England are struggling with economic hardships, leaving their residents feeling left behind and disconnected from the country's supposed prosperity. This economic divide has fueled social tensions, creating a fertile ground for unrest. The recent riots, ignited by misinformation surrounding a tragic stabbing incident, have exposed the fragility of England's social fabric. The false attribution of the crime to an immigrant unleashed a wave of xenophobic sentiment, highlighting the underlying tensions that have been simmering beneath the surface of England's multicultural society. However, in response to these far-right demonstrations, we're witnessing the emergence of a powerful counter-movement. Thousands of people are gathering to oppose racism and violence, demonstrating a significant division within the national identity. These counter-protests reflect a growing awareness and resistance against far-right ideologies, potentially paving the way for re-establishing social cohesion. The clash between these opposing forces is creating a complex national identity crisis. England finds itself at a crossroads, forced to redefine what it means to be English in the 21st century. The country that once prided itself on its stiff upper lip and orderly queues is now grappling with public displays of dissent and division. Local communities are deeply affected by this unrest. Leaders are condemning the violence and calling for calm, further illustrating the divide between different social groups. The struggle to maintain unity in the face of such stark contrasts is testing England's resilience and challenging its long-held self-image. This tale of two Englands raises critical questions about the nation's future. Can a country so divided find a way to bridge its deepening divides? Will the economic success of cities like London eventually trickle down to struggling regions, or will the gap continue to widen? And perhaps most importantly, how will England reconcile its multicultural reality with the resurgence of nationalist sentiments? The answers to these questions will shape England's path forward. The nation must find a way to address the economic disparities that fuel social unrest while also promoting inclusivity and tolerance. It's a delicate balancing act that requires not only political will, but also grassroots efforts to rebuild community ties and foster understanding between different groups. As England navigates this challenging terrain, the world watches with bated breath. The outcome of this struggle will have implications far beyond England's borders, potentially influencing how other nations address similar challenges in an increasingly globalized world.